Yo, what is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of NFL Talk of Elite Wages. Like I said in my episode a few days ago for my recap of week 3 and my Thursday night football play, I had a real rough week in NFL week 3. Tried to get too cute, played some team totals. That Panthers team total was way too low, I think. Played some field goal props, which, that was a bit touchy anyway. Ultimately, I got humbled. That is what it is. Back to basics this week, and bounce back week is incoming. I was advised to go back and take a look at my initial pre-season reads from when I did my NFC and AFC breakdowns, and I'm feeling more confident in my plays this week. I'm always confident anyway, but this week I'm more confident again. Going back, listening to what I originally thought, taking that on board more rather than just rolling with the punches and stuff like that. The ebbs and flows of football, week in, week out, and I'm feeling very confident this week. As always, I'm not going to mention Thursday night football. I'll save that for next week's recap episode. But let's get busy. Let's get into week 4's play. So we're going to start off. We're going to go straight into the Steelers versus Colts game, and you guessed it, we're back on a Steelers game. Make that 4 weeks in a row, and like I said in last week's episode, I'm currently unbeaten on anything favouring the Steelers in some way to start this season. I'm now 3-0 for plus 2.6 units, and I knew headed into this week I wanted to play this game, and more in particular I wanted to play something that favoured the Steelers again. But at first I wasn't sure whether to stick with the money line or to back the defense again and back the Colts team total under. Ultimately I decided to back the latter, so we've gone with the Colts team total under. I actually can't believe, I can't begin to stress enough how high I actually am on this defense. Pre-season I was skeptical about this team doing well because I thought their offense would let them down. In the first 2 weeks, the offense led by Fields. It did just what it took to win the games. But in week 3, their offense really stepped up and made their roster whole. A solid offensive showing. I think, Fields, he threw 25 out of 34 passes. I think it was 245 yards, a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. Really solid offensive showing. And then as well, a solid defensive masterclass. I do believe the Steelers offense will continue this upward trajectory, but I'm back in their defense again. They've been absolutely incredible to start the year. They've allowed only 2 touchdowns. They allow an average of 9 points to their opponents, and they've not allowed over 10 points in any games. They've allowed 10, 6, and then 10 points in the last 3 games. So now I know eventually the Steelers will get lit up and they will face that regression, but I don't think the Colts are the team to do it this week, and I'll tell you why now. So the 1 and 2 Colts, they've looked like a mixed bag to start the year. So week 1 they looked fairly solid on offense. They looked like everyone was heading into this season high on Jonathan Taylor, high on Anthony Richardson, Pittman. Everyone's high on this sort of offense coming back together, all healthy. But they put up 300 total yards and 27 points in that week 1 loss to the Texans. But since then, they've actually really struggled. They scored 10 points against the Packers and 21 against the Bears. The Colts were helped out a great deal against the Bears. Essentially, they got 14 points from 2 huge plays from their defense. An interception turned into a rushing touchdown for Jonathan Taylor, and a fumble recovery also resulted in another rushing touchdown for Taylor. If you take away those, their offense has been really average at best. They've actually struggled to get themselves down the field. Without the help from the defense, they would have had 14 points less essentially. Richardson, he's averaging 2 interceptions per game to start the year. As an offense, the Colts averaged 3 turnovers per game. I think that's one of the highest in the league as well. So this doesn't bode well for the Colts, as the Steelers are a top team for takeaways per games, and they lead the NFL in third down defense and red zone defense as well. The Colts have relied fairly heavily on their run game. They've totaled nearly 400 rush yards in the first 3 games. But again, they'll now face a top team that stops the run. The Steelers only allow 71 rushing yards on the season so far. They also just shut down two of the top rushers in the NFL right now, so Bijan Robinson, J.K. Dobbins, and now they've got the task of dealing with Jonathan Taylor. As I said, I'm going to be back in the Colts team total, and the Colts team total line has been set at 19.5 this week. And we've got a contrast in result here, as the Steelers, they haven't allowed anywhere near this number. Again, 10.6 points, 10 points, average of 9 points per game allowed. And the Colts have actually gone over this number in 2 out of 3. So they've scored 27, 10, and then 21. So they're averaging 19 points per game. But it has to be said, the way Colts have been playing so far, especially in the last 2 weeks, it's been very poor. Like I said near the beginning, the Colts were given short fields from the defense, and that created 14 points against the Bears. They shouldn't get that kind of help in this game against the Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are ranked joint second for least amount of giveaways per game. So again, no help from the Colts defense in this one. It's hard for me to back a team whose quarterback averages 2 interceptions per game, less than 50% passing. Again, an offense that averages 3 turnovers per game against a defense that holds their opponents to 10 points or less per game, forces the most turnovers per game, and also makes their opponents very, very uncomfortable. TJ Watt creating havoc is something I'm not willing to fade just yet. So we're going to go one unit, and it's going to be the Colts team total under 19.5, and that's at odds of 1.9. That's probably one of my favourite bets for this week. And we're going to go into the next game. That's in the Jaguars versus Texans game, and it's a woohoo. We're finally back in something fun. We're hoping for touchdowns, lots and lots and lots of touchdowns. So for this bet, the Jaguars and Texans selection, I believe the over in this game has a ton of upside. The line for this game this week has been set at 44.5. And first off, both defenses have just got knocked about for 47 and 34 points, meaning they are vulnerable on defense. With that in mind, despite mediocre starts by these guys' standards, there's absolutely no reason why Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud can't put together an entertaining game and contest a shootout in essentially a shootout game, given their ability and the weapons in their respective teams. Trevor Lawrence, he has struggled so far this season, but he's made some nice plays in between. He's got some good receivers there, Kirk, Davis, and now he's building a good chemistry with Brian Thomas Jr., who's actually his top receiver so far this season. All three of those guys have got over 100 yards and 400 combined. The Jaguars also have the 4th most yards per carry this season, led by Travis Etienne. And as for CJ Stroud, his receiver trio has been wreaking havoc on opposing secondaries all season so far. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, they've combined for 500 yards and 3 touchdowns through 3 weeks, and that is without Tank Dell, who's yet to be unleashed. We can't forget adding Joe Mixon into this trio will be a huge boost if he is healthy. Only one of the Jaguars games has reached over 45 points, and the Bills reached that number themselves. They scored 47 last week, on Monday Night Football. As I said earlier, Lawrence hasn't started off well, but I actually expect this game to be a game where he turns it around. He finds some scoring drives, puts it all together for this Jaguars offense. And for the Texans, only one game has gone over 45 points so far. It possibly could have been 2, but the Texans had 0 offense in that game and didn't contribute to the game total at all against the Vikings. They actually finished 34-7, so 41 points in total. A little bit more offense from the Texans would have sailed that over the 45 mark. In the last 4 head-to-heads, obviously this is a divisional matchup as well. These two teams see each other a lot, twice a year. In the last 4 head-to-heads, the results have been split 2-2, and there's been no back-to-back winners. So it's been Texans, Jaguars. The over 45 points is actually 1 win, 1 tie, and 2 losses, and this is mainly due to a blowout victory for either one of these teams. The Jaguars need a huge response after being dismantled by the Bills 47-10, and to be fair, as did the Texans, they suffered a beatdown and they lost 34-7 to the Vikings. So I actually expect this to be a closer game with both teams fighting for the victory, with both teams coming off disappointing losses, for different reasons. I expect both teams to want to put on a show, and I think both teams need to put on a show and show everyone what they can do. And with this being such a tight division, every win is it's really, really crucial this early on. These wins could separate you from first to third. So yeah, this is the potential. It's got potential for game of the week. Game of the week material. I expect a high scoring game as they both contribute evenly to hitting the over 45 points. So in this one, we're going to go 1 unit, Texans and Jaguars. Total match points over 44.5, and that's at odds of 1.95. So we nearly got that at plus money as well, but we'll take the 1.95 on that one. So it's going to be a short card this week, but I'm going to go over to my fantasy football segment. So as you all know by now, I'm now partnered with a fantasy football app, and that's called Fantasy Game Day app. It's based in the UK, and that basically allows you to become your own coach and GM of your own team. You get to pick players from a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end. You get a flex position, and you get a captain slot. So this captain slot will allow you to pick one player, any one of those positions except for a quarterback, to get double points for that particular game week. So basically my job, what I intend to do is to give some tips. I'm going to tip 2 players that I'm going to be taking this week, and they are essentially my best picks for this week. And I'm going to pick one for the captain slot, which gets double points. I'm going to pick a value player who's slightly lower than the average price. The average price per player is 5,000, and I'm going to pick one player for the value, way under the average mark to save up for those all important extra, pricey players. So I'm actually going to go straight into this one. The fantasy football selection for my captain spot this week is going to be Saquon Barkley, who's the Philadelphia Eagles running back, and he is actually 7,400. So admittedly, I've gone for the most expensive player in this week's fantasy football, Saquon Barkley, but that's not obviously because he's the most expensive, and I'm going to explain my reasons why I'm picking him this week. So it's not without a good reason. Barkley, he's exploded since he joined the Eagles. Obviously, he's been good for many years for the Giants. He actually is leading the league in rushing yards with 351, and he's joint first in touchdowns with 5 total, and also second in the league for most carries with 63. He's also added another 50 plus yards through the air on 10 receptions to start the year. He'll face the Bucs this week, and they defend the run relatively well. They allow 86 yards and 1 touchdown per game to a running back position, but they also allow the most receiving yards to a running back in the league. They average 8 receptions and 70 yards for the running backs through the air. Saquon Barkley is running back 1. He doesn't have to fight for snaps or anything. He's the lead. He's the main man, so we don't have to worry about these numbers being shared with anyone else. We all know Barkley is a really reliable dual threat running back who has major success in the run and in the pass games. The Eagles are looking likely to be without A.J. Brown. Also, Devonta Smith is questionable while in concussion protocol. They both did not train early this week. They weren't in practice early this week, so it's looking likely they will be out again this week. And if that is the case, that will increase Barkley's workload in the run game and essentially the pass game and short checkdowns and things like that. Even with Smith back, if he does clear concussion protocol, I still like Barkley to feast this week. Smith isn't going to get a lot of targets and things just coming off a concussion. But I mean, how can't you back a guy? He's averaging over 25 touches per game, over 100 yards per game, and almost 2 touchdowns per game. I'm going to predict an achievable number, and I'm going to hope for more. So I'm going to predict 100 scrimmage yards and a touchdown, and obviously hope for double. But I'll be happy with 100 and a touchdown in this one. Now for my value pick, again, I'm going to go for another tight end. So the price for this one again, like I said, it's intended to be as low as possible, and especially this week, I've tried to get as low as possible because I've obviously picked the most expensive player on the board this week. And again, we're back to the tight end to save us some money. Last week, I selected Dallas Goedert, who had a monster day. He finished with 27 fantasy points. Will we get a repeat of that this week? Probably not. But this guy, he's still got a potential upside to his game. Cole Kmet, he was Caleb Williams' go-to guy last week, and he finished with 10 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown. So that would have accounted for 15.7 points. That's obviously pretty good considering the tight end position normally averages just over half of that. I think they average about 8 points per game, so 15.7, almost double. That's a solid contribution. Caleb Williams, he found a groove last week, finally. He used Kmet often as he found that confidence in their link-up. No Keenan Allen last week, and potentially no Keenan Allen again this week. He's currently questionable, but likely to be out. That'll mean Cole Kmet will see more targets again. He now faces the LA Rams. They allow the fourth most yards to a tight end. They average 57 yards allowed. Last week they allowed 49ers tight end 2, 42 yards. Obviously they were without George Kittle, so tight end 2, 42 yards. The week prior they allowed Trey McBride 76 yards on 6 receptions. And in week 1 they allowed Sam Laporta 4 receptions for 45 yards. If Cole Kmet can emulate some sort of these numbers this week, I'll be happy with that. But I do actually think Caleb Williams will lean on Kmet more than other quarterbacks did with their tight ends, in recent weeks. I think Cole Kmet will end with around 50 yards and a touchdown this week again. I'm going for like an achievable number. And this is likely to be a close game between the Bears and the Rams. So I like Cole Kmet to get a lot of usage this week. So 50 yards, maybe 5 receptions and a touchdown will be lovely this week. So that's Saquon Barkley. You can get him for 7,400, and then you can get Cole Kmet for 3,000. So that's just over 10,000 for 2 players. I think that's fairly reasonable. Again, that's around 5,000 on average per player, so we'll take that all day. So let me know if you're tailing in the comments. Let me know who you're going with, who you fancy to go big this week. And again, I'll recap this next week, and hopefully I've recapped some solid numbers with both of these 2 players going high in the points for fantasy football this week. So I've actually got a play to piggyback off of my fantasy selection. So this one is going to be I'm going to do a 1-unit touchdown parlay this week. I'm going to make this my first official touchdown parlay of the season. I found 2 guys. They've been instrumental to their teams recently. I'm going to run with those guys to continue being key elements to their offense and to their offensive success. The first guy is Saquon Barkley. I've just spoke about Saquon Barkley. Not much to add. Obviously, like I said, he's exploded since joining the Eagles. He leads the league in rushing yards. He's joint first in touchdowns, and he's second in the league for carries. He's a dual threat running back. He can be used in the pass game, run game. He's very, very good. He plays the Bucks. They allow 86 yards and 1 touchdown per game to a running back. But again, they also allow the most yards to receiving yards to a running back as well. So he can really get this one done through the air, on the ground. Again, like I said, Eagles are looking likely to be without A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, probably Lane Johnson as well. Now looking at the injury report, but I'm not going to back a guy who's going to get this much productivity this week. 25 touches on average in his first 3 games, over 100 yards from scrimmage, and almost 2 touchdowns per game. So he's getting the volume, and he's my best bet for a touchdown. So to pair with Saquon, I'm going to go with another running back. He's been key for his team to start the year, and even in the end of last season as well. And that's going to be Breece Hall. He scored 6 touchdowns in a row. And like Barkley, he's a really good dual threat running back. He's rushed for 170 yards in total, but he's also added another 120 yards in the passing game. That puts him just under 100 scrimmage yards per game. He's been able to make things happen from basically from nothing. He's a real bright spark in the Jets offense. Aaron Rodgers has used him. He's used him often, and he's actually Aaron Rodgers' most used receiver, leading the team in receptions. The Jets will play the Broncos. They allow the 11th most rushing yards to a running back, but it's also likely that Garrett Wilson will be covered by Patrick Surtain, and Surtain has only allowed a combined 75 yards to wide receiver ones so far this season. So he's managed to shut down George Pickens, DK Metcalf, and Mike Evans. So if there is little success throwing to Wilson, Hall might be in luck for a few more extra targets from Aaron Rodgers. The Broncos haven't really faced many good rushing teams so far, but they did allow Walker 103 yards and a touchdown in week 1 against the Seahawks. I believe the Jets will win this game. I think it'll be a fairly comfortable win. So with the lead, it'll give Hall plenty more opportunities to run, trying to burn the clock and things like that. More runs, more opportunities, more touchdowns. Let's hope that's the case. So lock in this touchdown double. Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall, both of them to find the end zone. Odds of 2.6, so it's plus 160 if you're American odds. So my next play, I'm trying to go down in time order. So the next one, I'm going to go with a play for Sunday Night Football. This is actually going to be a collab bet with Mass Moneyline. I've not known Mass Moneyline long, but I do know that they're genuine, 100% transparent, got all their plays tracked, and basically what you see is what you get. You can follow Mass Moneyline, over on Twitter. You can head over to their website, which is massmoneyline.com, and you can get a 7-day free trial or a subscription. Trust me, it's worth it. So we decided to link up on this game. We both believe we've got similar reads. This one is my personal breakdown for the game. You can check out Mass Moneyline's breakdown for the collaboration bet on Twitter and on the website I mentioned above. So for this game, I expect it to be a closely fought out game between the Bills and the Ravens. Despite the Ravens being 1-2 and the Bills 3-0, both teams are playing some really, really good football. And before I get into who I think will actually win this game, I'm going to run through some facts and stats for both teams to start the season. So to start the season, the Bills lead the league in points per game, averaging 37, and the Ravens are down in 11th with 23.7. Both teams possess a really, really good passing quarterback, and both teams possess a really, really great run game. Baltimore significantly higher in the rankings. They average 203 to Buffalo's 120. But the Bills are holding their own in these games on the run game. So as for offensive passing, Baltimore average 227 yards through the air, and the Bills 209. On defense, the Ravens' run D has been solid, sitting at the top of the leaderboard, which sees Buffalo somewhere around the middle. But Buffalo have the better passing defense. They rank 8th for least passing yards allowed, whereas Baltimore rank dead last, allowing the most passing yards, with averaging 291 through the air. Basically, both teams are right up there with each other, they're neck and neck. This has been the case for a number of years, and it's hard to separate these two teams, and this game is not going to be any exception. During the Bills' first 3 games, they have been offensively solid. They played really, really well on offense, and obviously defensively sound as well. If you take away the little scare they had in the first half of week 1, the Bills overcame that game and conceded just 11 points in the second half. As for the next 2 games, they allowed Dolphins and Jaguars both 10 points. So yes, obviously Tua, he went out in their game, but that game was too far gone by that point anyway. As for the Ravens, they've put up some solid offensive stats as well, but ultimately, they're 0-3, or they could be 0-3, but they are 1-2. A tough game against the Chiefs, a shock loss against the Raiders, and nearly blowing a 28-6 lead with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter against the Dallas Cowboys. They allowed the Cowboys hope and they completely collapsed, and they allowed 3 touchdowns and 19 total points in the last 10 minutes of that game. So that's a game where neither team can be given anything. They can't be given an inch. If you give an inch, the other one will take a mile. The Bills have won their most recent 2 matchups. I believe they've got what it takes to win a third straight. The Bills have now won 8 regular season games in a row, and I think they're in prime position to make it 9. But as I'm predicting a closely fought contest, I think we're going to take the plus 2.5 spread. So I managed to get this at Bills plus 2.5 at odds of 1.9. That's minus 110 in American odds. We're going to go 1 unit on that. Again, myself and Mass Moneyline collabing on this one, and looking to start off this collaboration strong with a win. From Sunday Night Football, we go to Monday Night Football. This is actually my last play of the week, so we're going to be ending the week with a Monday Night Football play, and this is actually my first Monday Night Football play of the season. It hasn't been for any particular reason. It's just the first time I've had a great, a real good feel for a result in Monday Night Football. There's actually 2 games on Monday Night Football, but we're going to go with the Seahawks and Lions game. So the unbeaten Seahawks will travel to Ford Field and take on the Detroit Lions. So both teams, they've actually been playing fairly well. The Lions have had high expectations heading into the season, despite being 2-1. Some fans have been concerned with the lack of points put up the season, considering last season they were a top offense in the NFL. But we're not going to be focused on the Lions' offense, more their defense. So the Seahawks offense as well. I'm going to be taking the Seahawks team total. That's why we're looking at the Seahawks offense and the Lions defense. The Lions, they've played fairly solid on defense so far. Last season, the Lions allowed the 8th most points per game on average with 23.8. So far this season, the stat has improved, and they currently only allow 17.7. It's a slight concern for me that the Lions allowed the Rams to score 20 points, and that's without Puka Nacua and 2 starting O-linemen. They all went down during this game. And a week later, they allowed the Bucs another 20 points as they took a loss in that game. As for the Seahawks, they've looked decent on offense. They've scored 8 total touchdowns so far. They've averaged the 9th most points per game with 24.3. And they've actually scored 26, 23 and 24. Aside from Walker's injury, they're fully healthy on offense. They look ready to go. Charbonnet has stepped in for Walker. He's played really well himself. Obviously DK, Lockett, Smith and Jigba as well, and Geno Smith playing really, really well together. So this offense is looking locked in and ready to go. These two teams, they tend to play out high-scoring games when they face each other, especially more recently. The Seahawks dominate the head-to-head matchup between the two teams 13-5, especially more so in recent years. The Seahawks have won 6 on the bounce. 5 of those have seen the Seahawks score 21 points or more. They actually averaged 33 points per game in those 6 games. They faced each other 3 times since the beginning of 2022, and the Seahawks have scored 37, 40 and 51 points in those 3 games. I don't expect that to be the case in this game, but I'm confident in saying this offense will be able to score 21 points in this game. So we're going to finish the week off with a 1-unit play on the Seahawks team total over 20.5, and that's again odds of 1.95, close to double money, but we'll take the 1.95. To finish off the week, every week myself and Daily College Football, we do a weekly collab parlay, and that's 1 play from college football and 1 play from the NFL. Now, to start the year, we're not actually doing too well. We're currently in the minus, but we keep going strong. We've never actually finished in the minus on these in a full season. This week's play, again, 1 from college, 1 from NFL. The college football bet from Daily is Boise State moneyline. We're going to go with the moneyline parlay this week, so it's Boise State moneyline, and the NFL one, the NFL pairing for this one is going to be the Jets moneyline, and that's at odds of 1.7. Again, we will be posting this on Twitter, so keep out on both our Twitters. Daily will be tagged. He's always around and about in my tweets and things. Obviously, we've got the Discord together as well. So when I drop the link for my link tree, don't forget to jump in the Discord. It's 24/7 chatting. Obviously, with the time difference and things like that, I'm in the UK, he's in the States. So we've got a 24/7 Discord chat. And yeah, follow us both on Twitter as well for the weekly collabs. He is the main guy for college football as well, so there's no one else I'd rather trust with my money for college football than Daly. So lock into his plays as well. He's going to give you money. He had a solid week last week, so yeah, don't miss out on that. So yeah, so I'm going to run down through my plays again for this week, and then we're going to sign off. So we're going to go Thursday night football again. We know how that went, not going to talk about that one. We got the Colts team total under 20.5, and that's at odds of 1.86. Next one is the Jags and Texans game, and that's going to be over 44.5 at odds of 1.95. Bills plus 2.5 on the collab with mass money line, and that's at odds of 1.9. Seahawks team total over 20.5 at odds of 1.95. And then, we've got the touchdown parlay, Barkley and Hall for 2.60 on that one. And then, obviously the collaboration with Daly that I just mentioned again, the weekly collab with Daly. So, again, as always, appreciate everyone for listening all the way through. Hopefully this wasn't too long this time. Should be, just around half an hour. I think it's just about the right length of time to be able to get all my picks and plays in. It's a shorter card this week. We're looking for some profit, bounce back week from last week. So again, appreciate everyone for listening in. Appreciate everyone for sticking around this long. And don't forget to follow all socials. Lock in the socials. I'll link the link tree. Listen to this podcast on any of your streaming sites. Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube. Again, join the Discord, and let's have a good week this week. Hope everyone has a good week. We'll be back on next Wednesday for the recap, and let's lock in and let's get it.